Welcome to the show. I am your Vinyl Geek. Holy cow, I'm so excited today. This is one of my favorite albums growing up, a huge influence on my life. It's the Specials' debut self-titled LP from 1980 on Chrysalis Records. This album was produced by Elvis Costello. It was originally released in the UK on Two Tone Records, and we got this version, which included an extra song, Gangsters, and different cover art. They actually reversed the front and back covers from the UK release. Very strange. I don't know why they did that. I actually prefer the back cover of this album. I don't know why it's not the front cover. So I'll have to hunt down an import at some point, but that'll probably cost me a lot. I digress. So, this is A Message to You, Rudy. Wow, one of the quintessential ska songs. This is actually a cover of an original ska song. So Rudy is short for rude boy, which back in the 60s in Jamaica was a term for juvenile delinquents who were heavily influenced by the mod look in American gangster films and kind of imbued this sort of badass sort of a thing. And by the time the Specials recorded this song, rude boy had kind of turned into a term for a fan of ska music. And by today's standard, rude boy in the UK actually now means someone who's into the street scene. So it's kind of funny how words can change over time. All right, moving on to track 6, side 2, Gangsters. One of my favorite tracks. I don't know what it is about it. It's kind of haunting. It's transportative. This is a perfect example of what the Specials did best. I mean, it's really cool. It speaks for itself. That's all I'm gonna say. But I feel like I can't go on with this review without giving you guys a little lesson on the history of ska. So without further ado, I bring you Learning Stuff with Professor Watson.
The history of ska can be divided into 3 categories, or waves. The first wave represents the origins of ska music in Jamaica in the late 50s, early 60s. Bands such as the Skatalites, Desmond Decker and the Aces, Byron Lee and the Dragonaires. Traditional ska was born fusing calypso, Jamaican folk music called mento, and American R&B and big band jazz. Ska was made for dancing, or skanking, with its upbeat rhythm, which quickly became the country's most popular form of music. It didn't take long for it to catch on around the world by means of the 45 single. These 45s landed on the shores of the UK, which brings us to our second wave of ska. The kids in the UK who grew up listening to Jamaican ska went on to form their own brand in the late 70s and early 80s. This type is distinct because of its influence by 70s punk culture. The Specials were most influential at this time, producing several hit singles. Other notable ska bands include Madness, The Selector, and The English Beat. A little known fact, both the Police and the Fine Young Cannibals can trace their roots back to the second wave. Because many of the popular bands were on the Two Tone record label, this wave is commonly referred to as Two Tone. The success of the Two Tone bands reached the US in the late 80s and early 90s, creating the third wave of ska. This is probably the most popular wave because of the bands associated with it. You may have heard of Operation Ivy, Rancid, the Aquabats, Sublime, No Doubt, the Mighty Mighty Bosstones, and Fishbone, to name a few. But some of these bands traded their ska sound for a mainstream appeal. Thank you for learning.
Holy cow! Now you guys know what I'm talking about. I was lucky enough to be a part of the height of the third wave ska movement here in the States. So I'll tell you the truth. I grew up in Santa Cruz and we had a couple local bands. The biggest one, my first introduction into local ska was Slow Gherkin. And man, that blew me away. I was a freshman in high school and a bunch of my friends, and they were all going to this concert. I was like, yeah, cool, I'll go. And it just blew me away to see a 6, 7, 8-piece band up there with a whole horn section and this thing called ska, and everybody is doing this dance called skanking, and I'm like, what is going on here, man? I want to be a part of this. And it was the best concert. I literally told my parents, like, oh my gosh, this was so amazing, it's great. After the concert, I think they were dead tired, like, what are you doing here? We want to go to bed. Since then, I went to so many different ska shows with my buddies, and I made this jacket because of that, because I wanted to be cool two-tone boy, just like on the label and on the back, on the front cover. I wanted to be that rude boy. It was like a whole event. All us buddies, we'd all get dressed up like rude boys in black and white and checkers, and go out to the show and hang out downtown, and then go to Denny's afterwards, stay out till 2, 3 in the morning. It was just such a good time, and I don't know if I'll ever have that again, but I really cherish that, and this record just brings me right back to that moment, and that one's going out to you, Mr. Coots. So I gotta end with this song. This is side 2, track 8, You're Wondering Now. So this is the Specials' debut LP from 1980. Definitely pick this one up. It's a great introduction into ska if you're not familiar, and if you are, you should own this. This is mandatory. If you can find the UK album, better, because it has that, it's got a way better cover, but the US version does have gangsters, so it's kind of a toss-up. Just have both. Might as well have both. This is America, we can have both, right? But before I go, I want to leave you guys with some more awesome finds. So I went to this garage sale and I scored some pretty rare 90s LPs. I mean, these are original issue. This is Soul Asylum. This was their big hit album. It's got Runaway Train on it. It's from 1992. I got REM's Automatic for the People. I also picked up the anthology to Screaming Trees, which was kind of an underground band that never really hit it big, but it had a following. And finally, I got 10,000 Maniacs, Our Time in Eden. So yeah, very cool to find some rare 90s records. Definitely some awesome finds. That's our show for this week. Thank you so much for tuning in. I am your Vinyl Geek, and I'll catch you on the flip side.
This is the end. You're wondering how you will play for the way you did behave. You're wondering now what to do. Now you know.
What? There we go. Yeah.